A man who acted as a lookout during a violent dairy robbery in Auckland has been sentenced to 14 years in jail. Ngatama Kaienua never entered the dairy but kept watch as a teenager stabbed two shopkeepers in Lynn's Hylite dairy last June. The offence is the 28-year-old's third strike, which carries the maximum penalty of 14 years without parole under the three strikes legislation. But as Anneke Smith reports, the judge deemed it unjust to not give him the chance of getting out early.
On the 19th of June last year, a 16-year-old entered Hylite Dairy with a kitchen knife. He waited until the shop was clear of customers before attacking Siddhartha Patel. The teenager, who can't be identified, stabbed him in the head, shoulder and stomach while trying to open the till. He then turned the knife on Siddhartha's mother, Geeta, who had rushed to her son's aid. Kaienua didn't hold the knife or even enter the dairy, but was found guilty of being party to the crime. Justice Galt explained his role at sentencing this morning.
Meanwhile, Mr Kaienua was waiting near two rubbish bins some metres past the dairy's entrance. When ran out of the dairy, he gestured at Mr Kaienua, then ran off down the road. Mr Kaienua did not react except to shift his position slightly. He then straightened up.
Kaienua leant back on the bin before walking across Great North Road. The 28-year-old gave evidence in his own defence at trial. He told the court that he acted calmly out of fear he'd be wrongly implicated in the attack. But the Crown argued his cool demeanour showed the attempted robbery was planned and he was in on it. Justice Galt found Kaienua was involved in encouraging and planning the attack.
Mr Kaienua knew there was a real possibility that the knife could be used intentionally and those inside the dairy could be stabbed.
The judge said the Crown did not prove Kaienua knew the knife would be used to seriously hurt those inside. He found the Otahuhu man's role was aiding and abetting the teenager or being a party to the offending. Justice Galt said the effects on his victims could not be understated.
Mr Patel was in hospital for 6 weeks and had multiple surgeries. He felt helpless and was stressed because his family was finding it hard both to run the dairy and visit him. He is now back at the dairy but finds it difficult to work at night. He said what they did that day and its consequences for him personally will affect the rest of his life.
Crime Prevention Group President Sunny Kaushal says this isn't surprising.
It leaves a trail of pain, destruction, trauma, and on top of it, the families, they are not sell those businesses because of it drops the value of the business.
He says offenders know life is cheap and they'll be before the parole board long before their end sentence date. Kaienua was on his third strike for the robbery attack. This meant the judge had to impose the maximum penalty of 14 years in jail unless it was manifestly unjust. The court heard the defendant suffered abuse and neglect as a child and had developed a propensity for violence and substance abuse.
The pre-sentence report writer assesses Mr Kainua's likelihood of reoffending as very high, and I consider, given his history and the psychological report, this can only be correct. But I am not willing to write Mr Kaienua off, and I hope that there is treatment and therapy available to him which may reduce his risk of offending.
Justice Galt found it was manifestly unjust to impose a finite term of 14 years in jail or any finite term. He jailed the man for 14 years with no minimum non-parole period, meaning he could be free in about 4.5 years. Atu i te ko Timatua ko Anneke Smith tēnei.